Welcome to the Enterprise Vault Server Settings Migration Wizard training. My name is Patrick Ladone, and I'm an Enterprise Vault backline engineer. The objective for this training is to give you a better understanding of the Server Settings Migration Wizard and the purpose for migrating EV to 64-bit hardware. You will also gain knowledge that will help you to plan the migration to new hardware in preparation for upgrading to EV10, as EV10 requires 64-bit hardware.
The completion criteria for this course are as follows. The duration of the course is 25 minutes. You can stop at any time and resume the course at any time, even if you've closed the window. In order to complete the training, you must view all slides, listen to the audio, and answer the questions correctly, as well as complete the final survey at the end of the training.
During this training, we will take a look at the following: an overview of the Server Settings Migration Wizard, how to prepare the environment for running the Migration Wizard. We will verify that the target server is configured and ready to perform the import, and review the process of running an export on the source server. We will step through the import process, and then confirm that the target server is fully functional using the imported data. What is the Server Settings Migration Wizard? We will take a look at an overview of this utility. The Server Settings Migration Wizard can be used to perform hardware upgrades or to prepare a server for upgrade to Enterprise Vault 10, as this requires 64-bit hardware. The source server must be at 9.0 SP1 or higher to run the Server Settings Migration Wizard. The environment should be prepared to run the migration before beginning. An export is performed on the source EV server, and an import is performed on the target EV server, which should have EV installed but not yet configured. For servers using an earlier version of EV, there is a manual migration process. Detailed documentation, along with the Server Settings Migration utility, can be found by clicking the Attachments tab in the upper left-hand corner of this presentation. How To 42445 documents the detailed procedures for using the Server Settings Migration Wizard. Tech 141481 details the manual method for migrating server settings from one EV server to another. The Server Settings Migration Wizard can run on any version of EV9 in preparation for migrating hardware to a 64-bit platform. Is the EV environment ready to run the Server Settings Migration Wizard? We will take a look at the preparations for running this utility. The EV server name should have a DNS alias to allow for an easier process to move the server to new hardware. The target server will have a new host name, and the DNS alias will be updated to point to the new server name so that the same name can be used. A backup of the EV data, according to the procedures documented in the Administrator's Guide, should be performed before running the utility. If necessary, upgrade the file system archiving metadata. This is required when upgrading from EV8 to EV9 and then immediately to EV10. The FSA data in the database needs to be upgraded before upgrading to EV10. The FSA Summary Migrator utility is discussed further in the EV9 Utilities Guide. The following operations should be disabled before creating the migration package: user deletions, storage expiry, collections on the Vault Store partitions, archive location updates, manual archiving, and user actions in Virtual Vault. To apply the changes, a restart of IIS and the EV storage service is required, along with the synchronization of the mailboxes and stopping the provisioning task. Performing these procedures will ensure that the data is migrated, is static, and consistent after the migration. Archiving should be suspended on the source server for all types of archiving. The MSMQ data should be purged from the source as well. The vault stores and index locations should be placed into backup mode, and the EV admin service should be stopped. This will stop all EV services on the source server. Which options should be disabled before running the export on the source server? In order to apply the changes to the EV environment, the following does not need to be performed. Is the target server ready? we will take a look at deploying the target server so that it is ready for migration. The target server should be 2008 R2 or later if preparing to upgrade to Enterprise Vault 10, as this is the minimum requirement. All of the EV prerequisites must be installed on the target server. These can be verified by running the deployment scanner and ensuring all required items are installed and no errors are reported. Once all prerequisites have been confirmed, then install EV on the server and ensure the system locale and time zones are the same as the source server. Do not configure EV, as this will be done during the import process. When upgrading to EV10, the target server should be 2008 R2 or higher. Creating the migration package. Let's review the process for running the export on the source server. When exporting the data on the source server, you must log in as the Vault Service account. Then you can run the Server Settings Migration Wizard to create the export package. It's suggested that you save the package to a network location so that it is more readily available to the target server. The migration package and report file will be saved in the same location with the extensions EVSMP and EVSMR as seen by these examples. Once the export package has been successfully created, all of the EV services are disabled. Now that the export package has been created, the EV data must be made available to the target server. The Vault Store partition data can either be moved or copied to the same drive location, copied to a network share, or left on the existing server. The import will ask where the data is located so that the location can be updated with the proper information. If using a network share or leaving the data on the source server, a UNC path must be specified for the data location. The index location data, Centera collection folder data, and shopping folder data must also be available to the target server. If data is on a SAN, then the disk must be detached from the source and attached to the target. Additionally, the alias used for the source server should be changed to point to the target server in DNS. The Vault Store data must be made available to the target EV server. Delivering the migration package. We will now take a look at running the import of the migration package on the target server. To run the import on the target server, you must log in as the Vault Service account. Launch the Server Settings Migration utility, which will automatically run in import mode on the EV server that has not yet been configured. Select the import package to import, and remember that the DNS alias name will be in the file name so that you can confirm the correct package has been selected. The import process can only be run once on the target server, as the server will be fully configured after the import completes. Running the Server Settings Migration Wizard again will run it in export mode on this server. The VSA must have write access to the location where the package is located. During the import process, there is an opportunity to change the EV data location and the SQL location if needed. This is done by clicking on the Edit or Browse button at the side of each listed location in the wizard. The import process will perform the following checks and return the results with either a success or failure. If a failure is detected, the migration will not proceed until the item can be verified. Updates can be made, and then the option to retry verification can be run until no failures are detected. It will first confirm that the DNS alias has been updated to point to the target server name. It will check the SQL connectivity for the EV databases, confirm the Vault Store partition location and index locations are available. At this time, the locations can be changed if they are different from the source EV server. The shopping and cache folder locations will be verified next, and then in any other options, such as the FSA checkpoint folder, if the server is used for FSA tasks.
The Server Settings Migration Wizard will be started in import mode on a server that has EV installed but not configured.
We will now take a look at a video demonstration of the Server Settings Migration Wizard presented by Evan Barrett with the Enterprise Vault Technical Field Enablement Team.
Hello, my name is Evan Barrett. I'm with the Enterprise Vault Technical Field Enablement Team. Today I'm going to show you how to use the Enterprise Vault Server Settings Migration Wizard. The Server Settings Migration Wizard allows you to migrate your current settings that you might have on an Enterprise Vault 901 or later server running on 32-bit Windows and migrate those settings over to a Windows 2008 R2 server running 64-bit. Now keep in mind the minimum version that you can run the Migration Wizard is Enterprise Vault 901. So let's start here. We're going to bring up the Migration Wizard. The first step of the process is just going to check to make sure that we have the core services installed. Also checks the version of Enterprise Vault and to make sure the Vault service account has been configured. The next screen here basically will illustrate what settings the wizard's going to check, such as core components, registry settings. If you have Domino archiving going, it's going to check your Enterprise Vault Domino gateway settings. Also, and as you can see, reporting settings as well. The next screen is going to validate our server name and make sure things are running and whether we're in a cluster configuration or not. And the Server Settings Migration Wizard does support cluster configurations with Microsoft Cluster Server or Veritas Cluster Server. Now, the next part here, we have to specify a folder where all of our files will be exported to. This folder should be a location that the old and new server can access. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder on our ADSQL server. This server has our Active Directory SQL and some file shares. I'm just going to create a new folder here called Migration. I'm going to copy this path and paste it right in here. Go ahead and click on Next. Now, before we actually start the export process, we can click on Display the Report. And this is going to show us a lot of settings here that we can look at. And I think one of the most important things to view is warning or errors that the wizard has found. So our environment here, we do not have any issues here. So it's pretty safe to proceed forward here. So the next thing we want to do is check on the Create Migration Package checkbox and then click on Export. Now it's going to go through and stop Enterprise Vault services and start the export process and create our export package for us. And once all of our settings have been exported, we can go ahead and click on Next. And we once again can view the report and see if there are any issues during the export. And we have none in our case here. So at this point, we are done with the old server. We can go ahead and click on Finish here. One thing to note is that once the wizard has completed its process, all of the Enterprise Vault services are disabled. So the next part, we can proceed over to our new server. There's a couple things we do want to do before we start the import process. Namely, we want to make sure that we can see all of our index volumes and vault store partitions. So if you need to, at this point, switch over any drives, import drives, or if you're using UNC path names, you'll be just fine as well. In my environment here, I'm using iSCSI devices, which I will go ahead and import those right now. Our iSCSI devices have been imported, but now we need to assign drive letters. So I'm going to bring up Computer Management. We're going to import our disks. Now it's very important that you use the same drive letters. So I'm going to change our drive letter here. On the old server, our vault store is stored on the S drive. And our index volume was stored on the I drive. So we're going to change that over to I. So now that we have our disk space, our drive letters allocated here, we can start the server migration wizard on our new server. So once again, the wizard's going to check to make sure our Enterprise Vault installed, we're at the correct version, and make sure we're on a supported operating system. So next we need to import our package, and I stored this on our H drive on our other server, and we just need to select the import file. Now, this will also check to make sure we have enough drive space on the C drive or wherever Enterprise Vault is installed for the settings. So, as you can see, for our smaller environment here, the disk requirements are pretty small. You will need to provide the VSA or Vault Service Account password. You know, one thing we did forget to do here, and I kind of did this on purpose, is I did not update the DNS alias for the EV instance. So what we need to do now is go back to our Active Directory server, which also runs DNS, and update our DNS alias. So we're using EV1 here in our environment. I just need to change this to EV Server 2. And then we need to go back over here and run ipconfig flush DNS. And what this will do is flush our DNS cache. And now we click OK and click on Retry Verification. It's happy with the setting now, and we can continue on. The next part of the process here is that the wizard's going to check SQL connectivity. So we are fine here in our environment. We can talk to the SQL server with no problem. The next part is going to check to make sure it has access to all Vault Store partitions. In our test environment here, we only have one, and as you can see here, it has shown up correctly. Next screen, same thing for index volumes. So it'll make sure we have access to all of our index locations. However, we did not create a shopping data folder here. So what I'll do is I will create that manually. And now we can specify this folder by clicking on the little yellow folder here. Okay, so it's happy with that. We can click on Next. Now if you're running FSA, if you had FSA as part of your archiving process before, it's going to check to make sure that our FSA checkpoint folders are in place, which they are. So we can click on Next. And at this point it's happy, and we can go ahead and click on Import the Migration Package. This process, at least for this server, will not take too long because we have a fairly small environment here. After that, we can display the report, and we can make sure there were no errors or warnings. We can just click on the Warnings and Errors link here. The only thing we have wrong on this particular server is that the time zone is not set correctly, which is pretty minor. So we can update that real quick. So otherwise, the import process worked just fine. So now we can click on Finish here. We'll need to make sure that the Enterprise Vault services have been started. Now that we have all services started, we can check to make sure everything is working. So I'm going to bring up the administration console. And as you can see, everything seems to be just fine. Once again, we have a pretty simple environment here, and we only have one task, and it's running. So now we're going to see if we can retrieve some data. So I'm going to bring up Archive Explorer. And we're able to browse content that has been archived. So I can double click on one of these. Now I don't have Word installed on here, but it's able to retrieve the file just fine. No problems there. Do a quick search. So now we can do a search here. I'm just going to search through all of our documents. As you can see, we found quite a few. I'm just going to click on one here, and we're just looking at the indexed version. We'll try to restore the item. No problem. So now we can test placeholder functionality. So we're going to browse our files here on our file server. Now I'm just going to pick a file. You can see these have all been archived. I'm just going to open this up with a notepad. And we had no problem recovering the file here. So it looks like our server migration, our server settings migration wizard worked here with no problems.
Now that the server settings migration is complete, does it all work? We will look at confirming the target server's functionality. When confirming that the target server is functional, the following should be checked. Confirm that all EV services start properly. Confirm that the Vault admin console is able to connect using the DNS alias name. This will verify that the connection to the target server is successful. Confirm that the archive items can be retrieved without issue. Perform searches against archives and verify that the items are seen properly and can be opened. If using file system archiving, then confirm the items can be recalled from the file server using the placeholder file. Before the EV environment is fully functional, the following operations need to be re-enabled: user deletions, storage expiry, collections on the Vault Store partitions, archive location updates, manual archiving, and user actions in the virtual vault. To apply these changes, a restart of IIS and the EV storage service is required, along with the synchronization of the user mailboxes. Congratulations! The EV server data has been migrated successfully, and the target server is fully functional and ready for normal operation. Thank you for taking the training on the Server Settings Migration Wizard. Please take a few minutes to answer the survey questions about this training.